They say ignorance is bliss, but that bliss evaporates the moment you open a drawer you weren't supposed to. My wife always called me paranoid when I joked about her mystery errands. Turns out, my paranoia didn't even scratch the surface. For privacy reasons, I'll call my wife Rachel and myself Mike. We've been married for 9 years. I thought I knew her better than anyone, and up until recently, I would have sworn we were solid. We weren't perfect. No one is, but we were comfortable, settled. I worked a steady job in IT, and Rachel ran a small online boutique from home. The crack started to show about 6 months ago. Rachel's boutique had always been more of a side hustle, but she started treating it like a full-time career. At first, I was proud of her ambition. She began going out more often for meetings, saying she needed to network with local influencers and suppliers. It made sense. Networking is important in her line of work. But as her errands became more frequent, they also became more vague. At first, I brushed it off. People can have busy periods, right? But then she started coming home late, sometimes flushed and unusually upbeat. When I asked her how the day went, her answers were always vague. Productive, or got a lot done. No details, no specifics. Just the kind of generic responses you'd give if you didn't want anyone to ask too many questions. The first red flag came during a routine Saturday. Rachel had gone out again for one of her meetings, leaving me to clean up around the house. While tidying up our bedroom, I noticed her dresser drawer wouldn't close properly. Rachel is usually meticulous about these things, so it stood out. Curious, I opened it to see what was blocking it. That's when I found the velvet bag. It was small, luxurious, and tied with a neat little ribbon. Definitely not something I'd ever seen before. I shouldn't have opened it. I should have just shut the drawer and pretended I hadn't seen anything. But curiosity got the better of me, and when I loosened the ribbon, my stomach dropped. Inside was a collection of adult toys and lingerie I'd never seen before. Everything looked brand new, tags still attached. These weren't things she bought for me. There was no question about that. My mind raced. Why would she have these? And why were they hidden so carefully? At the bottom of the bag was a folded note. I hesitated before opening it, knowing that whatever was inside could change everything. The handwriting wasn't hers. It was rushed, uneven, and signed simply with the letter K. The note read, "Can't wait to see you in these." I put the bag back exactly as I found it, heart pounding in my chest. When Rachel came home later that day, I pretended nothing had happened. I smiled, nodded, and laughed at her stories, but my mind was elsewhere. The velvet bag, the note, the lingerie, it all pointed to one terrifying conclusion. Rachel wasn't just running errands. She was running a double life, and I had only just opened the door to it. After finding the velvet bag and the note, it was impossible to look at Rachel the same way. Every smile, every casual remark about her busy day, felt like part of a script she'd been rehearsing for months. I didn't say anything at first, partly because I was in denial and partly because I didn't know where to start. If she was hiding this, what else had she buried? Over the next week, I started paying closer attention. Rachel's phone, which she'd once left lying around without a second thought, was now glued to her side. She'd started wearing a new perfume, subtle but expensive, and her wardrobe was suddenly peppered with outfits I'd never seen her wear before. When I asked her about them, she shrugged it off as something I picked up for work. Work. That word became a red flag. Rachel's boutique wasn't booming enough to demand daily networking meetings and business dinners, but she kept insisting it was a busy season. I wasn't buying it, so I started tracking her movements discreetly, of course. I wasn't proud of it, but my gut told me something was off. One evening, while Rachel was in the shower, I decided to check her purse. I wasn't sure what I was looking for, but I figured if she was hiding something, it might be there. Tucked inside her wallet was a crumpled receipt from a luxury boutique downtown. The date matched one of her networking meetings. The receipt listed items that didn't align with anything she'd mentioned buying. A lace bodysuit, silk stockings, and a gold necklace. None of these items had shown up in our home. Not in her closet, not in her drawers. Then I noticed the handwritten note scrawled at the bottom of the receipt. "Hope you enjoy, Rachel. Can't wait to see you again." The handwriting didn't match the note from the velvet bag. Someone else had written this. Someone else knew about her purchases, her secrets. My stomach churned as I realized this wasn't just about one person. Rachel wasn't just hiding an affair. She was entangled in something much bigger. I couldn't shake the thought that Rachel was living a double life, and I needed to confirm it. Late one night, while she was asleep, I logged onto her laptop. She rarely used it, but she'd left it open on the kitchen counter earlier, and I figured it was my best shot at finding answers. That's when I found the account. It wasn't hidden, just minimized in her browser tabs. At first glance, it looked like a social media profile, but it wasn't one I recognized. The page was filled with sultry photos of Rachel. Nothing explicit, but far more revealing than anything she'd ever posted publicly. The captions were flirty, filled with emojis and suggestive comments. Her followers weren't friends or family. They were strangers, usernames like BigTipper21 and Nidal92. And then I saw the name K pop up in her comments, leaving hearts and fire emojis under every photo. The banner at the top of her profile read, "Exclusive content for my VIPs, DM for details." I clicked through, my heart pounding. It wasn't just a social media profile. It was a paywalled account, where subscribers paid for access to Rachel's private photos and videos. She wasn't just cheating, she was profiting off it. Rachel's double life wasn't just emotional or physical. It was calculated, methodical, and profitable. I felt like I was watching a movie I hadn't signed up for, one where the plot twist just kept coming. The worst part wasn't even the betrayal. It was the fact that she'd been so careful, so confident, that I wouldn't find out. But now that I had, there was no way I was letting her keep control of the narrative. I wasn't ready to confront her yet. Not until I had everything, the full picture of her deception. Rachel thought she was in control, but she didn't realize she'd already lost. After finding Rachel's OnlyFans account, my world started to tilt. I'd heard about the platform before, stories about people making a fortune selling exclusive content, often the kind you wouldn't want your neighbors or family stumbling upon. But I never imagined my wife would be one of them. Her account wasn't exactly hidden, but it was curated. Each post was carefully thought out, the captions designed to tease and entice. The banner at the top read, "Let me show you my world, kiss mark, subscribe for more." It made me sick. I scrolled through her posts, feeling like I was prying into a version of Rachel I didn't recognize. The photos weren't explicit but were suggestive enough to leave little to the imagination. What really caught my attention were the comments, hundreds of them. Strangers from all over, leaving compliments, emojis, and tip requests. But one name kept appearing more than the others. K_Dreamer. K_Dreamer wasn't just a fan. He was her biggest supporter. Every other post had a comment from him. "You're stunning. Can't wait to see more. Last night's video was fire. My stomach churned as I realized this wasn't just a random subscriber. He was deeply invested. I clicked on her message inbox, and there it was, long threads of conversations with K_Dreamer. The messages started innocently enough. Compliments on her content, requests for specific types of photos. But as I scrolled further, they became more personal. He wasn't just buying her content. He was talking about meeting in person, referencing the last time and our next date. That's when I noticed something else, a payment log. OnlyFans allows creators to receive tips, and Rachel's account had a steady stream of payments from various users. But one stood out. K_Dreamer had sent her hundreds of dollars at a time, with notes like, "For that smile, smiling face with smiling eyes," and "You're worth every penny." The last payment, just 2 days earlier, came with a note that hit me like a freight train. "Thanks for the night at the cabin. Here's to more weekends like that. K." The message about the cabin didn't come out of nowhere. I remember Rachel telling me she was going on a girls' weekend a few weeks ago. She'd even shown me photos of her and her supposed friends, smiling by the lake. But the photos didn't include anyone else, just her. At the time, I didn't think much of it. Now it felt like a carefully staged lie. I checked her email history next, searching for anything related to a cabin. Sure enough, there was a receipt buried under a folder labeled bookings. The rental was for a luxury cabin about 2 hours away, complete with a hot tub and a bottle of champagne upon arrival. The reservation wasn't in Rachel's name, though. It was under Kyle M., the same co-worker whose note I'd found in the velvet bag. The dates matched her girls' weekend, and the receipt listed 2 guests. Rachel came home later that evening, acting as if nothing was wrong. She was cheerful, chatting about her hectic day and the influencers she'd met with. I smiled, nodded, and played along, all while feeling the weight of everything I'd uncovered pressing down on me. What struck me most wasn't the betrayal itself, but the confidence she had in keeping it hidden. She carried on as though nothing had changed, blissfully unaware that I was piecing together the life she thought she'd kept secret. But I wasn't ready to confront her. Not yet. I needed more. That night, I returned to her account. It wasn't just about finding more evidence. It was about understanding how far this had gone. One of her recent posts caught my eye, a short video teasing an exclusive behind-the-scenes look. I clicked on it, heart pounding. The video was simple. Rachel, lying on a bed, wearing lingerie I'd never seen before. She laughed, winked, and whispered something into the camera. Then the frame shifted slightly, as though someone had adjusted it. That's when I saw him. Kyle. His reflection was faint, caught in a mirror at the edge of the frame. He wasn't visible for long, just a second or two, but it was enough. He wasn't just her coworker. He was her cameraman. With everything I'd gathered, the messages, the payments, the cabin receipt, and now the video, I finally had the full picture. Rachel had built an entirely separate life, complete with an audience, a producer, and a storyline I wasn't a part of. But this wasn't just about catching her. It was about making her realize that every lie, every secret, and every deception had a cost. I wasn't going to confront her out of anger or desperation. I was going to confront her with precision, in a way she'd never forget. Rachel thought she was in control of the narrative, but she was about to learn that I'd been watching, and I was ready to tell the final chapter. By now, I had a clear picture of Rachel's secret life. The velvet bag, the messages from Kyle, or K_Dreamer, the OnlyFans account, the cabin receipt, it was all connected. She wasn't just cheating on me. She created a whole persona to support her affair, and she'd used her platform to hide it in plain sight. But I wasn't ready to confront her yet. I wanted to make sure that when I did, there would be no room for denial or deflection. Over the next week, I started compiling everything into a folder. Every screenshot, every receipt, every message thread, it all went into a timeline that detailed her lies. I even saved her video with Kyle's reflection in the mirror, freezing the frame where he was visible. It wasn't just about catching her anymore. It was about making sure her double life couldn't be spun into something innocent. Rachel's OnlyFans account had a section for paid messages, content her subscribers could unlock for an additional fee. It wasn't cheap, but I decided to pay for one of the messages Kyle had sent her. I felt sick doing it, but I needed to know exactly what their interactions looked like. What I found confirmed everything. The messages were graphic, full of inside jokes and references to their time together. Kyle wasn't just a fan. He was deeply involved in Rachel's life, both online and offline. One message even referenced me directly. I can't believe he still hasn't figured it out. You're amazing at this. That sentence lit a fire in me. It wasn't just the betrayal. It was the arrogance, the confidence that they could carry on without me noticing. They thought they were untouchable, but they were wrong. One evening, while Rachel was in the shower, her phone buzzed on the counter. Normally, she'd take it with her, but she must have forgotten in her hurry. I glanced at the screen and saw a notification from a Cash App. The message read, "Kyle sent you $500 for last weekend." My hands trembled as I opened the app. The transaction history was littered with payments from Kyle, each with cryptic notes: for dinner, for that dress, and for being you. This wasn't just an affair, it was financial entanglement. Kyle wasn't just her biggest fan. He was funding her double life. The most damning discovery came when I accessed her OnlyFans account again. This time, I found a folder labeled Custom Content Requests. Inside were photos and videos Rachel had made specifically for Kyle. They weren't just flirty or suggestive. They were intimate, filmed in places I recognized, like our bedroom and even the living room. The realization hit me like a brick. Kyle wasn't just part of her OnlyFans world. He was infiltrating our home, using the spaces we shared as part of their twisted relationship. I wasn't angry anymore. I was calm, focused. Rachel had spent months, or maybe even years, crafting this web of lies, and she thought I'd never notice. But now I had everything I needed to bring it all crashing down. I printed the receipts, the messages, and the photos. I froze the video where Kyle's reflection was visible and added it to the file. I even included the Cash App transactions, highlighting the patterns in their notes. It was a mountain of evidence, and there was no way she could explain it away. I planned the confrontation for the following weekend, when Rachel wouldn't expect anything. I wanted to make sure she had nowhere to hide, no way to escape the reality of what she'd done. Rachel thought she was in control, but the truth was she'd been leaving breadcrumbs the whole time. Now, I had all the pieces, and I was ready to show her the picture she'd painted. The week leading up to the confrontation felt like an eternity. Rachel carried on as though nothing had changed, blissfully unaware that I was collecting the final pieces of her betrayal. She still had her busy days, her networking meetings, and the occasional flurry of activity on her phone that she'd angle away from my view. But now, every move she made felt like a glaring spotlight on her lies. I spent those days preparing meticulously. I wanted the confrontation to be irrefutable, calm, and deliberate. Rachel wasn't just cheating. She was crafting an entirely separate life, and I was determined to make her face it head-on. 2 nights before the confrontation, I stumbled upon one more damning piece of evidence, an email she had carelessly left open on her laptop. It was a booking confirmation for a luxury hotel downtown, dated for the coming weekend. The room was reserved for 2, under her name, and came with a note. Romantic getaway package with complimentary champagne and breakfast for 2. The guest name listed alongside hers? Kyle. I took a deep breath and added it to the growing file. This wasn't just an affair. It was a full-blown relationship, built on lies and funded by her OnlyFans income. I decided the confrontation would happen Saturday morning, just hours before she was scheduled to leave for her romantic getaway. I wanted her to have no time to fabricate excuses, no chance to manipulate the narrative. The evidence was ironclad, and I wasn't leaving any room for her to wriggle out of it. I printed everything, the screenshots of her account, the messages with Kyle, the financial transactions, the hotel booking, and even the frozen frame of the video with Kyle's reflection. I organized it into a binder, laying out each piece in chronological order. When I was done, I sat back and stared at it. This was the truth she'd tried so hard to hide. Saturday morning arrived, and Rachel was already busy packing for her supposed business trip. She hummed to herself as she moved between the closet and the dresser, pulling out outfits I'd never seen her wear before. Watching her, I felt a strange mix of anger and pity. How had it come to this? I waited until she was almost done before stepping into the room, binder in hand. "We need to talk," I said, my voice calm but firm. Rachel froze, her hand hovering over the suitcase. "About what?" she asked, her tone light but with a hint of nervousness. I placed the binder on the bed and opened it to the first page, her OnlyFans profile. Her face went pale as her eyes darted to the page, then back to me. "What is this?" she stammered, but I didn't let her continue. I flipped to the next page, the messages with Kyle, his payments, and his note about the cabin weekend. Then the hotel booking confirmation, with her name and as listed as guests. "You've been lying to me for months," I said, my voice steady. "Not just about this account, but about everything. The meetings, the trips, the money. You've built an entire life behind my back." Rachel's composure crumbled. She tried to deny it at first, claiming it was just online and not real, but the hotel booking and the video with Kyle's reflection made it impossible to dismiss. Her excuses became desperate, incoherent. By the end of the confrontation, Rachel was in tears, begging me to understand and give her a chance. But there was nothing left to salvage. She'd broken every ounce of trust we'd built over the years, and I wasn't interested in rebuilding it. I told her I'd be filing for divorce, and that she had until the end of the weekend to pack her things and leave. Her romantic getaway with Kyle wasn't happening, not on my watch. As I walked out of the room, binder in hand, I felt an odd sense of relief. The weight of her lies was finally off my shoulders. Rachel thought she could live 2 lives, but now she had to face the reality of losing both. The hours after the confrontation felt surreal. Rachel stayed locked in the bedroom, presumably alternating between anger, panic, and the realization that her double life had crumbled. Meanwhile, I focused on setting my final plan in motion. Confronting her was only step one. I wasn't going to let her walk away without feeling the weight of her choices. That afternoon, I drove to meet with my lawyer. I had prepared for this moment in advance, gathering every piece of evidence I needed to make the case airtight. The binder I had shown Rachel wasn't just for shock value. It was the backbone of the legal strategy. With proof of infidelity, misappropriation of marital funds through her OnlyFans, and receipts tying Kyle to her lies, I had more than enough to ensure a clean break. My lawyer assured me that not only would I likely get everything I asked for in the divorce, but Rachel might also face financial repercussions for hiding her income. She'd been reporting her boutique as her sole source of revenue, but her OnlyFans earnings painted a different picture. I wasn't typically one for revenge, but Rachel's arrogance deserved a reckoning. While I didn't want to humiliate her outright, I did feel the need to make her actions known to those she had fooled. That evening, I composed a simple email to a few key people, her closest friends, her parents, and even a couple of Kyle's coworkers. The email was short, accompanied by carefully selected attachments. I thought you should know the truth about Rachel's recent activities. I'll let the evidence speak for itself. I attached screenshots of her OnlyFans account, the hotel receipt, and the incriminating messages with Kyle. I wasn't interested in a smear campaign. I just wanted the people closest to her to see her for who she truly was. As for Kyle, I wasn't about to let him off the hook. A quick call to his company's HR department was all it took to make them aware of his extracurricular activities. I emailed them the video frame of him in Rachel's OnlyFans content, along with proof that he'd been funneling money to her through workplace resources. By the end of the week, Kyle had been suspended pending an internal investigation. Word got around quickly, and his spotless reputation was now tainted by the same lies Rachel had been weaving. Rachel tried to plead her case one last time. She claimed it was a moment of weakness, that the OnlyFans account had started as a fun experiment and spiraled out of control. But I didn't buy it. She had taken deliberate steps to hide her actions, and her relationship with Kyle was anything but accidental. By the end of the weekend, Rachel was gone. She moved in with her sister, though I suspected it wouldn't be long before she ended up at Kyle's doorstep. Not that it mattered to me anymore. I had filed the divorce papers, cut off her access to our joint accounts, and started the process of rebuilding my life. In the weeks that followed, there was a strange sense of freedom. For months, I'd been living under the shadow of Rachel's lies, questioning every part of our relationship. But now, the truth was out, and I could finally move on. As for Rachel, I heard through the grapevine that things didn't go well with Kyle. Apparently, losing his job and being exposed for his involvement had taken a toll on their connection. Meanwhile, her OnlyFans account, now public knowledge, had alienated many of her friends and family. I've always believed that the truth has a way of surfacing, no matter how deeply someone tries to bury it. Rachel thought she could live two lives, but she forgot one crucial fact. Secrets are never as safe as they seem. Looking back, I'm not bitter. If anything, I'm grateful. Her betrayal taught me to trust my instincts, to value honesty, and to walk away from anything or anyone that doesn't deserve me. Some people might think I went too far, exposing her so publicly. But the way I see it, Rachel wrote this story herself. I just made sure everyone had a copy.